Welcome back to the Aligned Mommas Podcast. Thank you all for tuning back in. We have Lisa Raftery back on the show. She's my cousin, for those that may not have heard that podcast. But so we brought in my cousin, Eric Raftery. They have such a solid marriage, such a solid foundation with God. We would like to kick off this podcast with the story of how you met.
Hey.
Leave no
Go ahead, babe. How'd you meet me?
Oh, you want me to tell the story?
Okay, fine. So actually, I was in college and my parents told me, hey, we've decided to move churches. It's better fit for your brother who's still in high school. And I said, okay, great. And so that's great. I'll just go wherever you guys go. And so when I would come home in the summers, loved our new church, loved our new pastors. And then over the years, I married the pastor's son.
Yeah.
So I met him at church.
Yeah. We met at singles group. I didn't want to go to singles. She didn't want to go to singles because stereotypically single groups can have what we would call unique vessels, like interesting people, right? And we were like, I don't know if I want to go to singles. And all ages. We were kind of younger. We were like, I don't know if we're cool enough for that. We ended up going, and that's where we met. So I'm glad I went.
Okay, well, like that sounded great, but like give us the details. Like who saw who first? Who made the first move?
Well, our story's a little bit unique in that I came in really holding pretty tight to my heart. Like I had dated someone in college very briefly, but that was like a Mr. Wrong for sure. And I'm like, I'm going to wait for Mr. Right. And so I had all these, I was very cautious and almost like overly so. And then Eric had been engaged. And as the pastor's son, it's a big deal to not be engaged in front of everybody. So he was really guarding. Yeah, I would say he was pretty guarded to like, hey. And so we really were just, the first time we had a date was he invited the entire young adult group out to his jazz concert.
Yeah.
And I thought, I want to go to a jazz concert. So everybody meet in the church. He is so cool. He played a jazz band, right?
Whatever.
In Chicago.
Big band in Chicago.
And so I bought an outfit. I showed up and I was the only young adult to show up. And his mom was like, wonderful.
Yeah.
So next thing I know, I'm with his parents. And I just went with his parents and his 2-year-old brother. And so, and so we went out to dinner afterwards. And of course, she's like, Eric, I think it's best if you take Lisa home. So that's
my mom is a matchmaker. In fact, my mom put, we were at a friend's wedding and Lisa and I knew each other. And I took a picture with Lisa at the wedding, just as friends, as groups of people together. And I went into the kitchen one morning to get breakfast out of the refrigerator, and our picture was on the refrigerator. And I'm like, and it's just me and Lisa. And I go, Mom, where'd this picture come from? She goes, oh, I don't know. I just thought I'd throw it up there on the refrigerator. So that was kind of weird. We weren't even like dating or anything.
So I was very grateful. I had my mother-in-law, future mother-in-law, in my corner from the start. So that was awesome. So we were friends for a long time.
Yeah. We were both super busy. I think the thing that triggered our whole relationship was another friend of mine who Lisa and I would just basically hang out for like 6 months. I was full-time college trying to finish. Lisa was working her first year full-time teaching. And so we would meet like, hey, you want to grab like dinner on Monday night? It was just like platonic. And it was like my first real platonic relationship with a woman. I've never had that before. And we would just literally go hang out and just got to eat, and that was it. And it was pretty cool. And then what happened was my friend asked me, Ben, he came up to me and he goes, hey, I'm thinking about asking Lisa out this Friday. What do you think about that? And I was like, all of a sudden in my brain, I was like, no. And then I knew. And that was after probably, how many months was that? A lot, like maybe 6 months. So there are some slow guys out there that, you could be like, are you in the friend zone? Maybe he just doesn't know quite yet. And so for me, that was the thing that started the whole thing. And I that was when we had pagers and text. We're older, right? So we're both in our 50s. So I called.
They don't look like it.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Video of this
Thank you. So what happened was I called her and goes, "Hey, what are you doing this Friday?" And she goes, "Nothing." I go, "Let's go on a date." And so we did. And poor Ben called.
And I go, oh, I'm already going on a date.
Yeah,
Are you and
so
Ben
that's
still friends?
Yeah, but not with the
yeah,
Ben.
yeah, we were still friends.
Aw,
I
that
don't
was
know
good.
if he knew. Maybe he knew I did that. I don't know.
I mean, I think you did.
I think
Yeah.
he figured it out.
I mean, fair game until
yeah.
That's
I would
right.
say to a ring on the finger, but until you're like officially
Well,
dating.
you have like, what's that phrase I'm looking for? You had some, I don't know, something like some skin in the game. There we
Yeah,
go.
right.
Yeah.
Like 6 months. That's a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
That's our story.
And I asked her dad when I said, "Hey, Lisa and I are thinking about dating," and her dad was like, "What have you guys been doing for the past 6 months?" Because
He goes, I thought you were dating.
everybody else knew apparently except for us. So
We were like, okay, well.
yeah.
Can you just real quick, so we can jump into maybe some of your top tips, can you real quick bring us from that point up into marriage and kid life?
Yeah, I'll start this and then I'll let you finish this because I know what you're going to do probably. But I would say when Lisa and I first got engaged, we went through a relationships class. And so what Lisa and I decided early on when we were going to do this whole thing, we decided to invest in what marriage looks like, how marriage works. And this was even before we were, I think we even did it like during our engagement, did some premarital, but we were always investing in like if there was a marriage workshop, we would do that.
Samantha has said this too. They did that as well.
From the
Yeah, and I think it really
marriage
set us up
conferences and-
with some really good pillars or a foundation to build where we are today. Now, I thought I was killing it in the beginning as a husband,
Don't they all?
but as we were going to the workshops and asking questions, I figured out I wasn't killing it. It's so, yeah.
Okay, you're very sweet to always say that. He absolutely was. It's just when marriage brings out areas you need to grow. 100%. I mean, marriage will grow you like nothing else can.
Yeah.
And so he was killing it. He got so many things right, but both of us were learning, really learning the other person. And if that's one of the tips I could give is to truly understand your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And have grace for them and really understand. I'll give you kind of a funny example with that. We had 4 children at the time, very little, and he traveled. So he had a season of traveling, and he would be gone, let's say Thursday to Sunday night or something like that. And when he'd come home on Sunday night, he'd put his luggage by the fireplace, so excited to see us,
Monday I'm home.
all of that. Yeah, and he was so relieved to be home. He'd leave it there. And I would think to myself, that's okay. He'll move it tomorrow, right? He's just got to settle in. And then Monday it would sit there and I'd be like, that's okay. He's going to get to it. And then literally by Friday, I'm angry. Or it's like time for him to pack again and I haven't done the laundry or whatever it was. It was a frustration point for me because I felt like if you cared about me, you would pick up your stuff. Like, am I supposed to pick up your stuff too? Like, I'm already like covering all the bases while you travel.
Kids under 5 or 6. What was it? Because you guys.
We had 4, 6, and under.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and I took it so to my heart where I'm going to be patient. And he would say, oh, I didn't even see it there. And for a long time, I felt like that was an excuse. And it would just really bother me and hurt me because he would do it every trip where he would just forget about it. And one time the Lord said to me, he's like, Lisa, I want you to know, like, he doesn't see it. And I realized, oh, he's not making an excuse or lying. Not that I thought he'd lie, but I just thought he was like, oh, I don't see it. But I'm like, he really doesn't. When he gets home, he's so relieved to be back with his family. And this is my, I'm like the house manager, right? He really didn't see it. And the Lord said to me, if you will just understand him, that he doesn't see it. He honestly is just, that's not his personality. All you have to do is ask. So I had to swallow my pride to ask. And as women, so many times we're like, I shouldn't have to tell him what means something to me. I shouldn't tell him what I want for my birthday. Mm-hmm. He should know me, and it's like, okay, that might be intuitive, but it's not necessarily effective. So it is good to communicate. Now, you can communicate, hey, when my birthday comes up, you know what means a lot to me? Things like this, things like that, and me not having to tell you it's my birthday. Like, I'm just letting you know. So in good moments, it's good to explain who we are, to explain maybe expectations we have that make us feel loved. Like those things are healthy. Like communication's really healthy. But I just learned if I could understand him and actually believe the best of him. I mean, he really was working very hard. He was very tired when he came back. How many women who have like husbands that travel, or maybe you travel for work, you know that like it's not all glamour fun and you come back and you're energized.
Yeah.
You're actually pretty tired when you come back, and it's just, you're almost a letdown, like, oh, I'm back, but you got to get back in routine. So anyway, the Lord was like, will you love him enough just to ask? And I learned if I would just say the next day, hey, babe, could you take care of your suitcases? He'd be like, what? Oh, yeah, of course. And he'd get up and do it. I had to be okay with understanding how he works. And I just had to ask, like, could I be a little giving? Because he would definitely be giving once I did.
Yeah.
Side note for the birthday thing, something me and my husband do, or he started, I think he heard it somewhere, but he has a note app in his phone, and then he's like, puts in there, and it took him a long time before he started this, but it's like Samantha's favorites, and he has like a bunch of my favorites, and then as the wife, sometimes I go in and maybe assist him.
I think visuals are also really powerful. If you can establish a visual or key phrases in really good moments when you're having a good moment. So basically, I think one of the biggest keys to marriage is just set yourself up to win. like we need to set ourselves up to win and not just hope it's all going to happen, right? And one thing is, in like a good moment, if you could set, some sort of image that they understand. So did you want to explain? We've used one about treasure.
Oh yeah, we do this for our kids for sure, and it works out in marriage. But what we found out is that if we put a picture or an analogy with it, it really, the kids understand it and they see it. So I remember the kids are arguing one day, and just like, kids, right? And we were getting frustrated as a parent, but we understand that with every frustration that we have, either in our marriage or in parenting, there is a biblical principle that you can apply to that area to help you, mend that, fix that, and move into the right direction. So I came up with this idea that I started talking to the kids about, what would you do with a treasure? Like if I was to give you a treasure, like a treasure chest, what would be in there? What would that look like? Would you leave it out on the streets? What would you do if you had a treasure? You
kick it around.
Kick it around? No, you take care of it because it's valuable, it's priceless, and it's something very special. And so then I turned it on them and I go, well, that's your sister and that's your brother, they're a treasure. That's our family. Our family is the greatest treasure. We have years of investment that your mom and I have spent together and living together and having wonderful memories, and you as kids, and your sister's a treasure. Your brother's a treasure. And so now when the kids, moving forward from that, when they would get into it, we go, hey, don't forget, we have a treasure. Your sister's a treasure. And it really helped us because I believe that kids, they want to do what's right. And, but sometimes they don't think like us adults because they're kids, their brain's not developed yet. And so it's one of those things where we can give them an idea of something really cool. And so I treasure Lisa as, my wife. She's the greatest treasure I have. So she comes
Look
before
at that smile on
everything.
your face.
Yeah.
Yay.
And for me, I prioritize Lisa. I make sure that her voice is heard. What she's trying to tell me, I listen. For us, like we do the same page coffee that we make time for,
Can you
where
explain
we
that?
meet.
That is so
Yeah.
good that you
So
do that.
basically, okay, as the man, I have to line up and sink in to the household because I'm out doing work and things outside, right, to bring in money for the family. And there are, spouses that both work. But for Lisa and I, she works within the business, but I'm pretty much, I have to get synced in with the family because Lisa here, she holds as the mom. She's like the glue to the family, the kids' schedules and everything. So same page coffee for us is me as the man of the house coming in and being like, okay, tell me what's going on. And then I'm going to put the phone away. I'm going to focus. Give me tasks that you need done because we love tasks as men. And then how can I help you get this accomplished. So that's what same page. We're going to be on the same page because our schedules, we have so much, going on.
We try to do it once a week, and it's not really a date. I mean, it's nice to be together.
Mhm.
You could do it on your back porch. You can do it in the kitchen table when the kids are in bed. You could do it in the morning. I mean, you could do it wherever, but we don't use that as date time because who wants to talk about schedule logistics on your date?
Yeah.
The dates for refreshing and fun. And actually, on our dates, we don't talk about any of that. We're like,
Yeah.
at Same Page Coffee.
That's
Now
off
we're
limits.
on a date. A lot of times we're on a date where like we will talk about nothing stressful. We're not going to solve problems. We're going to talk about fun memories we've had or dream for the future or what we appreciate. Whatever we like, dates are supposed to be refreshing, not exhausting, right? So.
Yeah.
Same Page Coffee, though, is when we can talk about what's working in the house, what's not working in the house. We really just go day by day because we have 4 young adults now, and we each have things, and we have like church commitments and all that. So we just look at like, what does Monday look like? Tuesday, whatever. And then a lot of times we even bring our young adults into the tail end. Like, is there anything I need to know that you need this week or whatever? But it's a beautiful time to even talk about like, how are we doing? And I can share things on my heart for each child, that kind of stuff that he wouldn't know, but you have to make space and time for it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we get frustrated the direction families are going, but we have to put the time in to actually steer where we want to go by communicating and me updating on what I see and feel and what we can pray towards or whatever we need to do. But it's been a super help for him to just be quickly like, this is your time to just get through a task list of where we're at, where we need to go, and all that.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
It helps me a lot because I don't have the pressure of it just on me. He can know, and a lot of times he has like, you know what, I think this would be best, and we're like, okay.
And
or I can tell him.
Does he help problem solve for you? Is there ever a time where he's looking at your tasks and like, or your weekly schedule, like, no, you're not doing all of this, or are these?
100%.
If you're tired by the end of the week, he's not like, what did you do all week?
Yeah. There's times where I've come home and as, the father, but then also the husband, Lisa takes priority. And so there's been times where I remember one time we had these 2 dogs. Oh my gosh, this is a funny story. And these 2 dogs were the worst dogs in the world. I mean,
they were yappers.
They were just, and I could tell every time I came home, Lisa, the best way I could explain Lisa, she looked like a hamster that was in a ball that someone has shaken, and it was just like overly stimulated, just like about to go crazy.
Oh, had 4 small children.
And 4 small children.
Crazy dogs.
And we inherited these dogs, and I was just like, I walked in there, and as the father, as the husband, I'm like, I got into protection mode, and I'm like, well, kids, hey, I want you to do something. Everybody come out. We're going to say goodbye to Molly and Max today. And everybody say goodbye. They're going on a trip because we love Mom more. And Molly and Max are leaving the house.
I think this is a God's word from the Lord speaking to Nikki. She
And the kids,
we had this. I was homeschooling the kids, right? So I've got 4 kids. I'm homeschooling 4 kids. And we had this child gate to keep the one dog in the kitchen, but we didn't hook it in because it was too hard to have to. So I could move it, right? But that dog would knock it down. So all day I'd hear, I mean, he came home one day and I went, what does a nervous breakdown look like? Because I think I'm close. So I appreciate.
Here's the deal. My kids love animals. We have 2 Tibetan Mastiffs that run the property. Oh, wow. I got a Frenchie.
They got their animals
in here. We got 30 chickens in the barn. We got barn cats. So they have all the animals that they need.
We just had, that wasn't the right season. But, just circling back, making time for the conversations that matter and doing it often. It just helps you get on the same page. And the whole idea is to alleviate frustration points.
Yeah.
You want to have your marriage peaceful. Everyone's on the same team. You're not, you're
Speaking of same team, isn't that a term you guys use? Would you want to touch on that?
One, to lead into that, the idea is in moments, like good moments when you're not working through something, you're not frustrated or whatever, you come up with phrases that you can use in times of conflict where everybody knows what you mean. You don't have to unpack it all.
Mhm.
They get it. And so Eric came up with same team. So you want to explain?
Yeah. So basically, Lisa could be frustrated about something, right? Could be financial. Like what's going on with finances right now? We haven't sat down for a budget. I'm feeling stressed about stuff, but I've already paid all the bills. I've already finished stuff, but I haven't communicated to her. So we always say like women they're like computers that have all of these running software programs that are
Sadly,
closed.
pray for us.
And it's just like running all
Like,
in the background, right?
Man can X out and be like, I'll deal with that later and not think about it.
Yeah.
But we just minimize the screen so it's down there running.
Yeah. So her brain's running on this, and then she comes to me like just like
A little hot.
a little hot, and I'll be like, whoa, hey, we're on the same team, and vice versa. I've done that with her, and we're all human, and there's times between work and between kids we can get like super just like
Passionate.
stressed out, and then we come to our spouse and we're just like
We're kind of venting and ranting, but what's happening is they're starting to feel like I'm chewing on him.
Sure.
Like I'm ranting on him or railing on him. And just that word, just him saying, babe, same team. I'm like, oh, he's feeling chewed on. He's feeling like I'm directing anger towards him when actually I'm really not mad at Eric. It's the situation. And I need to affirm that you're right, babe. We're on the same team. I'm sorry. I love you. I appreciate you. Okay, let me redirect my energy in this direction together. And it's such a game changer where we don't have to unpack it. We don't have to talk about how it made me feel. We get it. It's like same team. I exactly know how it feels and I know how to redirect behavior or vice versa. If I'm like, same team, babe. He's like, okay, sorry. I'm a little too curt here.
Yeah. And like she said, we don't have to like
Talk
reverse the whole thing. It's just like, oh. And that for guys, straight shooting, just like very minimal, like we like those, how do I say it? We like the
easy correct course
headlines, right? We don't need all the details. It's just like just give me the headlines, give me the bullet points, I got you.
Well, sometimes like you don't even realize that you might be frustrated at the kids or something else, and that happened this weekend. And I came down and I asked Jonathan if he wanted to plate of food, and apparently I seemed very mad, and he's like, I'm just not hungry. Like, why are you mad? And I'm like, I don't know. He's like, what the heck? So sometimes we don't realize, like, it goes both ways. We don't realize what we're projecting on the other person. But I just had this whole situation just happen, and then I was frustrated at that, and then I got mad at them for not wanting to eat. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we just don't realize it sometimes,
What kind of helped me translate into this was I call the vibe check. And it helps Lisa as the woman to just go through her day without me like having to sit next to her on the couch with a cup of hot tea and just like, you know what I mean?
That's not really his idea of
That's
welcome
not my,
home, babe.
Yeah, welcome
I want
home.
To talk to you at
So what I do is I would call on my way in my commute to home, and I'd be like, hey, and I would get the vibe of the house. So I knew who, really good. So then I knew who to be when I came in. And what I mean by that, look at her like this.
That's a joke. We're just joking. No one got beaten.
No, like who I needed to be as
to be. Okay.
Be, not be. No. Who to be as.
Days,
Well, it's like here. Sometimes we come home from work as dads, and we went to the gas station and we got a bag of candy, and the moms had a rough day with the kids. They haven't been listening, and then I'm coming in as the fun one, and it's like,
we wanted the bag of candy.
Yeah. Right. And
like
so
you got to be good cop.
Right. And so what I would do is I would call ahead, and if the kids were acting up, I would come in immediately to support Lisa and to support the fan and her with the kids. Like, hey kids, hey, you're not nailing it today. This isn't a great day for you guys. Why don't you guys go to your room? We're gonna let mom have some time of peace. She's gonna go read or something. Get her vibe back. But the whole point was the husband that I need? Do I need to be the authoritative father? Do I need to be the fun dad? Do I need to pray for her over the phone? Do I need to let her give me a whole conversation on something that will take 10 minutes of just her talking that I can just listen to in the car coming home?
Real life,
Right?
guys. Real life.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's real life because
Yeah.
when you come home and you have multiple kids, it's hard for couples
Chaotic.
to connect because the kids just want to be with dad, right? So
And
that was
Lisa,
something
did
that helped.
you feel special that he took the time to think about you on the way home?
Oh, I loved it. I loved it too because I also understand my husband that if he's been battling all day at work, he really doesn't want to come in to the house to another battleground, right? Where he's got to work at the next level. He kind of is excited to just come to his refuge. And I always wanted, like, I actually, when the kids were little, when I knew he was going to walk in at 5:30 or whatever, I'd be like, okay, guys, let's straighten up. Let's make it night. We want dad. I actually trained the kids to be thoughtful. Like, dad's had probably a really long day. So and a lot of times when he'd come in, I'd be like, let's go make dad happy he came back. So we'd all be like, hi, and hug him and all that stuff. Or if I knew he had a really hard day, I'd be like, guys, why don't we keep it quiet? Dad's coming in, so let's turn the TV off or whatever, and let's just have it peaceful. So it kind of goes both ways. He was being thoughtful to me to be able to walk in, but I'm also thoughtful to him. To this day, sometimes when I know he's had a really long day, but I need to talk to him about just a little something so he understands a dynamic that I don't want to wait for the next day. I'll say, hey, can I just talk to you on your way back? And he's like, yeah, sure. And so that way he can kind of like, I'm assuming he's paying attention, but
I am.
it gives us the outlet we need that he doesn't have to sit on the couch and like be there.
Oh, yeah. I
He
can't
can
tell
just
you how
be
many
there.
times Eric's like gets to the point where he does this with his, he does like the spinning motion with his fingers. Like,
Land the
all
plane.
right.
Land the plane. And again, understanding each other. Eric did explain that to me early in our marriage. He's like, babe, honestly, like my family culture is to give all the details and then you end with the cool like point of the story. But he's like, I'm sorry, babe, that drives me nuts. Like the whole time you're telling the details, I'm like, what is this about? Like I don't care.
Eric sometimes has listened to me on the podcast, like, listen, like just tell them what you were trying to tell them.
Or like
But
a
what
squirrel
really
off.
means something, what means something to
I
me,
think it's a woman
he
thing,
goes,
though.
Yeah.
start with the headline, like, hey, this thing happened. And then he's more apt to go, really? What happened? Now he actually cares about the details. But if I do the detail build up, I'm probably going to go way around the barn in a way he doesn't need. But this allows us. So I guess a big marriage tip is honestly have community. Because your girlfriends will probably love for you to tell the story around the barn. Like they won't care. So know your
good.
audience.
That's
know your
good.
audience. Your husband
Join
is
the
your best
Aligned Mommas
friend.
Yes.
You need to get out those extra tidbits. that
Yeah.
nobody else cares about.
Call your mom, call your friends or whatever if you're telling like some epic story, but tell your husband with the headline, hey, our neighbor lost his job yesterday. The wife's upset. Great. He doesn't really want to know. So yesterday someone called me and then we talked for 15 minutes and then what he's like, why'd she call? So
Have you ever
it's just
seen text
understanding each other.
messages or phone calls back and forth between men? It is as like even my teenage son. It's like that was it. And part of me is like, that was amazing. I feel guilty getting off the phone that quick.
One time I was telling Jonathan a story, and I guess I gave him a detail, and he's like, that was irrelevant. Why did I need to know that? And then the next day when I was on the phone, I think my mom, and I was telling her the story, she asked me a question, which she's like, girls really do care. Like, what? But we're just different.
Right.
Yeah, you got to know your audience, and he is your best friend, but he isn't a woman. So you
that's
got to
good.
just keep that in mind so
Yeah.
that he enjoys you talking to him. And same thing too, like sometimes he'll start with the headline, and I want more detail.
Yeah.
So he has to be patient to give it to me. Like Sundays is like he wants to move on, and I'm like, no, hold up. I don't really. What? Wait, what? What's the situation? And that's okay too. Husbands need to be patient and loving to the wife, and the wife is being loving.
But I create times for Lisa to talk. Like we do a morning walk together, and men, for the most part, shoulder to shoulder is how they like to communicate. So there's been studies shown like they'll put two chairs in a room, they'll put two boys together, and the boys will actually move the chairs where they're like side by side, where they're shoulder to shoulder, and they'll just kind of hang out like that. And they'll do for girls, they'll put it, and the girls will put the chairs facing each
Oh, we'll
other.
be grabbing
And
hands and like
yeah,
giggling. And
yeah. And so our morning walks and then there's been times where we take some evening walks have been really great because that allows Lisa to share her heart and for us to pray. We like to pray on those walks too in the morning because it's just like it's really nice. You know, it's like one
I
of
have a
those
question
connections.
for you.
Yeah.
Is this your neat hikes that you do in California? Or are these like, I know you guys have since moved to the country. Like my
Yeah.
husband thinking of going on a walk with me makes him want to gag. Probably like, why
Where
the heck
would
would
you
I want
guys
to do that?
walk?
But
I guess up the
throughout the course of our marriage
Oh.
and existence, like just
Yeah.
no way ever, even if we had like the most beautiful path or sidewalk to walk on. So did you just
Yeah.
naturally like doing that, or did you realize that it was nice?
Yeah.
I was always a walker. Like my family would walk after dinner, just neighborhoods.
Mhm.
We were just like middle class America, cute little neighborhood. We'd walk around. And I remember when we got married, I'm like, you want to go for a walk? And Eric is like, to where?
Why?
And I was like, like walk around the neighborhood. He's like, for what purpose? And I'm like, to talk, like relax. I love it. And he was like, yeah, nah, So there were many years we didn't do that. But once we had kids,
Yeah.
we would walk with a stroller or whatever. And what he learned was I think for him, it was a great time to pray, strategize. It was good for everybody, but it had an end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't have to sit on the couch for some interminable amount of time. He was
Yeah.
like, yeah, let's go for a walk. And, we'll walk to the gas station and back. It depended. We didn't always live country, right? Like
Yeah.
we would literally walk on sidewalks to like the gas station and back. But I think for him, he was like, yes, she can get it done. And then we're done,
Yeah.
So it was kind of a nice thing. So he learned to and then now when COVID hit, he could be, let's go for another walk. Like it was his stress relief. So I think you'll have to find with your husband, if you really have somebody who hates walks or hikes or whatever, I think we just
his
love
would
to
be
doing
like in
family
the
walks.
woods hiking with all the nature and
Yeah.
things. So I mean, maybe that's the
I
way I have
mean,
to go.
Yeah, and
I
that's-
have to.
that's
Maybe
us.
maybe if he'd give it a shot,
Yeah.
be like, hey, could we once a week just have a walk together? It means something to me. He might learn to love it because of the dynamics, but he didn't love it at first, and then it became his thing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, I lucked out because I actually enjoy it.
Yeah. Great.
Well, I hope you
Yeah.
But maybe
listening
there's
to this,
something
so
else.
Derek, have an open heart.
Does your husband like to take a drive? I mean, maybe you guys
I
could be
could
like,
see him wanting to hike our woods or something like that and show me
That'd be
animals
fun.
and like I don't know, who knows, but yeah. Drive? No, I don't know. Probably not.
I mean, maybe some guys like to take a drive. Maybe some
Yeah.
guys want
Yeah.
to take a walk. Maybe they want to do an activity and then there and back in the car. You could, I don't know,
Yeah.
but you
Yeah.
got to find what works for you guys. But it's a 20-minute walk every morning we have. It's
Yeah.
not long, but it's our prayer walk and we can kind of talk through a few things.
Do you have
and
to get
then-
up early sometimes to do that? Are you up at the crack of dawn just to make sure?
Well,
you get
we're
that
up
time?
early anyway
I mean, we get up 6-ish. So
because we got to feed things that,
Yeah.
and water and stuff like that. So
my life right now is hilarious.
Okay, would you, and maybe I should have asked this before the podcast, not going into details, but would you mind sharing on the importance of intimacy and keeping that type of priority? Because there are many, I feel like more in the secular world, but probably still within, our Christian brothers and sisters, there are many relationships that put that to the side, or you have little kids and whatnot. And we talked about this on a podcast, but it was last year, I believe, or the year prior, we did a couples group, and it was interesting to us women that the men said that's how they feel the most loved. And we're like, great, don't you guys just need to be respected? And isn't that for a whole nother reason? And they were like, no, that is like maybe not the only way, but the best way they actually feel loved. So
I read a book, What Women Need to Know or something. It was some Christian book a long time ago. And I thought I can't remember, maybe Stormy, I forget her last name. But anyway, in the book, she had done all this research and the question was given to the men. Would you rather be completely respected but unloved, or totally unloved but completely respected? And the men in the survey were like, I don't get the question. They're like, they're the same.
Only for men only.
Yeah, for men only. For women. Yes. Okay,
Yes.
yes. And so it was for women only, right? So she was like, the men were like, I don't get the question. Like if I was totally disrespected, I wouldn't feel loved. Like I don't get it. Right? Because women can separate respect and love in a compartmental way that men typically don't. And so it's same with physical intimacy. I feel like secular society has so objectified sex. They don't even call it like making love, right? It's like having sex and really derogatory terms for it.
Yeah.
That are just so, like body count. Yeah, it's so disrespectful. It doesn't really honor the sacred part of it. And in it, they kind of say, yeah, men just want the physical, but not realizing there's a deep emotional connection that happens in sex for men. So for some reason, secular society has said it's physical for men, emotional for women. But it's like, hold up, actually, it's physical for both and it's emotional for both. And I think what happens when we buy into these lies about what intimacy is and the purpose of it, then we really miss out on the beauty of it. And so I had the very wonderful blessing of a mother who was a Christian woman who was very positive about sex. So I grew up thinking sex is wonderful in its context. You know, in the context of marriage, sex is wonderful. And so I always remind moms of girls, be careful you're not, you're trying to get your daughter to be abstinent. So you're like, sex is bad, sex is bad, sex is bad. But the problem is, if all they've heard is sex is bad, then when they get married, they can't flip the switch to like, but sex is good now. Like they can't. They're just like, oh, it's dirty, it's bad, it's not. When that actually isn't even the truth about sex. God created it. We're actually allowed to have pleasure as the female participant in a way that no other creation can. Like God actually wants us to enjoy this intimacy together. It's supposed to be pleasurable for both. It has a purpose for both. It's a stress release for both. It's a connection for both. It's the glue that keeps you together. It's not conditional. And I think that's the thing too is we have this contractual idea about marriage in general. Like, well, I have these boxes. And if you meet these boxes, if I feel love and respected in this way, this way, and this way, then I will give you respect and honor and love and sex and all the things. But you got to get in my boxes, then I'm okay. Yeah. And then he could say the same thing. Well, I'll respect you if you do that. And he's, well, I'll love you if you do this, 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 this. But see, that's not kingdom. Kingdom is more like, I see you, I love you. We're doing a life together. Now we're going to talk about things that we want to grow in or whatever. We do have things that matter to us, but it's not when you do this, that's not how Jesus works, right? It's not, it's not performance based. And so neither should that be. And I see a lot of women using sex instead of a healthy tool to build you closer. They use it as a leverage tool, right? Like I'm going to leverage. So if you do all this, you'll get sex. You don't do all this, you're not getting this. Now, I do think the husband, it behooves him to know that if you're mistreating your wife or unkind or short with her, or if you're not giving, it is hard for a woman to give her body to you because she's frustrated, right? Yeah. Like she is a little bit like, I don't feel very loved. The more loved I feel, the more I'm going to be willing to give all of me to my husband. Yeah. So I think, don't take that for granted. Where the Bible says that the wife's body is the husband's and the husband's body is the wife's, and the Bible says not to not come together unless you're specifically doing it for a time of prayer, right? So the Bible's saying this should be often. You should be coming together. This is not a one-off, just for children or once a month or whatever, the Bible doesn't give the time.
And then not having a good marriage. What am I doing wrong?
If you can see the intimacy and how, and then I'll let Eric give his perspective as a man, but I think for men, if you have a wife that doesn't want intimacy, it's hard for him to understand your bigger dynamics. Maybe as a woman, you're just tired. Maybe you're going through a season where you don't feel you're most beautiful. So you're like, I don't know, do I want the lights on? I'm not feeling super awesome. There are bigger dynamics that really have nothing to do with your husband. Maybe insecurities that are causing you to not want to give yourself to him. But all he can say is like, hey, if I'm the awesome man I think I am, why is she not interested? Like, it's actually a real bummer. Like, wait, I'm into my wife. Like I'll do it morning, noon, and night, anytime. Just give me a little. So like, oh, did you touch?
They're not caring about the things we're insecure about. Yeah. That's at the end of the story.
Right. Yeah. Or not seeing it. They just know that you're not interested in sex, and they don't get why. They're like, why not? So it behooves you to what does Dr. Dobson say in parenting? He's like, the more deposits you put in, the healthier the relationship. And then you can take withdrawals, you can work with each other. So it's the same in marriage. If you want a healthy intimacy, the more you make her feel loved and valued and wanted and needed, the more she wants to be there for you sexually. But end of the day, I think we women, there have been times where we've had a fight, or what should we call that? Intense fellowship. So, you know,
A disagreement.
a disagreement or whatever. And then I'm like, hey, are we gonna whatever? And he's like, whoa, I thought that was off the table for sure tonight. And I'm like, what? No, man, I want to cement down how much we love each other. Like, I didn't look at it like, you got me upset, you're gonna pay the price, and you're not getting. I was almost more like, it's more important we have sex now, because you know, whatever, and not making it a conditional thing, but almost like exercise. It's gonna benefit you. It's gonna benefit you. May not even feel like doing it. There are times where he's like, hey, and I'm dead dog tired, but I've just learned to go, hey, back. Even if I don't feel like it, but I can tell you every time, I'm like, I'm glad we did that. You know, even if I'm exhausted, I'm happy later. I'm like, actually.
A wise woman once told me, if you need to talk about talk to your spouse about something maybe deep or hard or whatever, do it after that time. And I found that, I mean, that's a great place to do that, to have those conversations too.
He's so exhausted he can't go anywhere.
They're just more gentle afterwards. I don't know what it is. It's just like more caring.
And he's probably grateful.
You don't feel love. You've been holding out for 3 weeks. Well, you know, maybe don't do that.
A lot of things with intimacy feel intuitive. And and then I need to let you talk. But
no, you're doing great.
So just an example of how powerful intimacy is. I had a woman come to me and she was very frustrated with her husband's situation because he has a very important job and he has to travel for it. And she's frustrated that he's not like leaving that job, seeing the dynamics for her and the children. And, but he really feels like it's kind of a very important position he has for the country kind of thing. So he's like, I can't get rid of it now. And she was just saying that he was going out of town and he was like, being very affectionate, probably wanting to be intimate before he goes out of town. She goes, but I gotta be honest, she's like, I shirked it off because I'm mad at him. I'm mad at him. He's got this job and he's leaving us again and whatever. And I was like, okay. I'm like, all right, well, you can do that. That's definitely intuitive when you're frustrated. And I said, but you know, what if you're missing a beautiful opportunity? So you've got your husband who loves you. He's into you. He does have this job at this time. I said, what if instead of withholding sex, to make your point, what if you genuinely love him? He's in this job for now. You intercede before the Lord about the job. You pour it out before God. God's the only one who's going to change your husband's heart towards the job, who's going to change the dynamics that he could leave the job. There are things that he's a provider, so he's like worried to just be like, oh, you don't like this job, I'm out, you know. So what if you use your prayer closet for that, but then you use your sexual relationship to build your marriage? So what if when he reaches for you, you're all about it and you actually purposely just love him for who he is in this moment and he's doing his best. He's actually a really good man. Like she's like, yes, he's the best actually. Just the one pain point, right? And I said, what if you take the opportunity to really cultivate your sexual relationship so that you're closer than ever? And what if at some point he's like, man, I hate leaving home.
Right.
I mean, we have such a good sex life, our intimacy and our friendship and who we are together, man, I need to find a different position. I don't want to be gone from the girls. I don't want to be gone from my wife. I really love when I'm home. So as women, sometimes it's intuitive to give them the cold shoulder for 3 days, but is it wise? Is it the best opportunity to actually build your marriage? Because that's the goal, right? So you can give your thoughts as a man on what it means.
Tell us what we need to know. Give us some insight.
I think just for men, it is a connection that makes you love your wife just even more. Because when you give yourself to each other, that reciprocity of, two people coming together, I think it for me, it just makes me want to be with Lisa more. It makes me want to be a better man. It makes me want to be a better provider, a more courageous for my family. Um, yeah, for me, it motivates me. So I think for guys, it's a big motivator. Now I know there to the flip side of this, there are people that come into marriages, and Lisa and I were both blessed in this area to where we talked about things before marriage, and there were some things that I went into the marriage. I'm like, hey, I want to apologize for some past relationships I had, and I want to ask your forgiveness, and I'm giving my entire life to you at this point. I'm making a covenant with you, and I don't want our bedroom to ever be defiled. And I cut all, past relationships, and you're my one and only. And Lisa was that way too. So we had a good foundation, but there are some couples that have maybe not had that talk, and maybe there's some shame, from past relationships, or maybe even a past hurt, a rape or a molestation. So there are things that you need to maybe talk to someone like a therapist, or someone that can help you, a counselor, to work through that, because then sex becomes something that's beautiful, and it's not something that comes
Good
from
point.
a pain point,
Yeah.
and I think communication between couples is communicating about your sex life. How does this make you feel? Not to get super deep, but it's like, hey, let's talk through things, you know because if there's an open communication, like, why are you distant, or why do I feel like you're pushing away from me, maybe that could spark a conversation,
Right.
of, I was hurt in my past. Well, let's deal with that. I want to walk through this with you. We're in a marriage covenant now. I'm your husband. I love you more than anything. And I think those types of communication can be awesome, because the true definition of love is that unconditional love benefits others at the expense of self. And so, what that basically means is, I'm here for you. I'm willing to die for you. I'm willing to sacrifice for you. Just, I love you. Let's talk about it. And we've done that with our kids too. Like, there's nothing that you can do, we tell our kids, that'll change our love for you. And I think spouses need to talk about that too. Like, look, I don't want my spouse in shame. I don't want Lisa to feel bad about something, not able to talk to me about something, So it's like, hey, just assure them that I love you.
Right.
My love is the same it was. In fact, from the day we got married, it's even greater now,
I know.
and it's never going to change.
Right.
And so I just think communication is really important.
And also knowing it's okay that, okay, let me give an example. Some people like a back rub, like really get in there. Some people like light scratch, right? So in your sexual intimacy, not demanding things from your spouse that they're not comfortable doing, or that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Like, you're supposed to be making love. It, and pleasure's the beautiful byproduct of it. But our secular society kind of looks like pleasure's the object. And so that's why they get into all these perverse things. Like, you should not be bringing pornography into your marriage bed. If you're lovemaking, you're doing things that feel good to the other person,
Yeah.
and being open to what that is, and just loving each other and enjoying.
Yes.
And
I got a funny one.
oh,
I got a funny thing.
oh boy, I don't
Now,
know what's coming.
when Lisa and I always wanted, like, our sexual experience to be like this, like, earth shattering, like, man, I just want it to be amazing. And this was after kids, and Lisa's like, and so Lisa had to tell me one day, she goes, hey, it's okay for you just to, us to have a little short session.
Meaningful quickies.
A meaningful
Yeah,
quickie.
right.
It doesn't. She's like, I'm exhausted. I want to be there for you, but where my head is right now, and that was good
How
for
about
me
quick and fun?
because as a husband, because us men, we want our wives just to be like, you're so awesome, you're so amazing, and to be able to have that conversation where that's okay, and so for me, I was like, I
And
don't
it
want
doesn't mean you don't feel desired, right? I mean, I think
Right.
that is the push-pull sometimes with men, is like, oh, I'm so
Right.
tired, and how tired? How can tired trump that? Because for men, it can't. So,
Oh, men are sick tired,
Yes.
injured.
I could just have a broken arm and you put a cast on that arm
you're
and I'm on
ready.
pain medication.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's go. You know, that's guys. That is
It
so,
is.
that's guys.
So,
And, you know, as women taking care, you know, being like, hey, it means something to me to take, you know, have a great moment with you that was just, you know, it doesn't all have to be tens.
Right.
Sometimes 7 will make you appreciate the 10. So like it's okay. We don't have to be a big production.
It's the
of it.
compromise
And it's
push-pull thing.
Yeah.
and sometimes being playful about it and just remembering it's supposed to be fun, you know. So
Right.
and that's another thing I would say is, you know, we've been married 27 years, but sometimes when you know that you know that you know no one's home, you know, and he comes home and maybe, you know, you have an apron on in the pantry, but that's all you got on.
Yeah.
You got the see-through apron on and you're like, welcome home.
That's every guy's dream.
Right?
So
And
Eric,
they didn't expect it, you know, it's fun.
Is it true that men don't see the leftover stomach after 3 or 4 children or the stretch marks? Like, you know how us women are so insecure and then, you know, you see everything on TV and so, like, we feel so insecure just naturally. Is it true that men just don't care about that?
We don't. Yeah. We really don't. Like Lisa, I think Lisa's like the most amazing, beautiful woman. And she'll be like, she'll sometimes go, oh, I'm sorry. Like, oh, and I'm like, what are you even talking about? I'm like, get over here. You know what I mean? So for us guys, we're not that hard. It really is not that hard. I think for women, there's a lot of complexities and emotion and things that are going on. You guys are deep, man. Us guys, it's like there's an on-off switch.
Yeah.
And then the woman's mind, it's like wires and cables and switches and buttons and all this stuff. And for us guys, it's very simple. It is really simple for us guys. And we just want to be loved. And I think just that respect and love.
I think every man wants to be admired.
Yeah.
You know, so I appreciate he strives to be someone I can admire, you know, so that's a good word to husbands. Like, you know, and I think as you're married longer and longer, of course, you want to take good care of yourself, right? For yourself. You want to be healthy. And I do think that it would be unfair to say that if we're super unhealthy, like if I never washed my hair or showered or brushed my teeth or, you know, some like extreme thing. I mean, obviously that could affect something like I don't want to kiss someone with scum on their teeth, you know, obviously, you know, but overall we really love each other and and you just enjoy each other. And I never felt like all my, you know, pregnancy years and, you know, I remember I used to always be like, yeah, I'm getting back in shape. I had a baby. And then one day I was like, of course my baby is 8 years old. So maybe I should take a walk and not just complain. Right. But you know what I'm saying? So, you know, within reason, but yeah, I love it.
I think
Thank
that
you, babe.
we have to keep doing on both ends, like some of the things that we did when we were dating or trying to get to pursue the other one. And obviously life's different, so not all the time, but if you're the wife and you're just always in frumpy clothes 100% of the time, maybe get dressed up. If you're the husband and you haven't made a sweet gesture or grabbed flowers or whatever you did in the beginning, maybe do that, you know.
I do encourage to be kind of playful, to keep it fun. Like life goes so fast. We're in our 50s. I'm like, oh gosh, that happened really fast. Like how many decades have left? So keeping it playful is fun. And also doing like surprising them sometimes is really fun. Like he'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired at this event. And I'll be like, well, I hope you're not too tired. So like it doesn't have to be raunchy. And he's like, wait,
that's cute. I could do something.
Right? And he's like, he's like, oh, okay. Now he's like, oh, 2 more hours, I'm going home, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and then just, you know, he comes home and you took your bubble bath and you were like making it fun. And so
it's understanding your spouses. I really like that love language. I know some people know what it is and there's some people that never heard of it before, but finding really those core things that really set them up for a win. Lisa is... she really likes words of affirmation, but then also she likes touch, and for me, I'm touch and touch me again. So that's mine, and everybody has their thing, and it could be quality time, and it's really finding out what your spouse loves. And that's the cool part about being married is people go, well, they go have affairs with people because there's a mystery. It's like, ooh, there's something, but you can find something new about your spouse if you're
Right.
intentional. That just, it's like a book, it's like a novel. And I always look at marriage as a garden, and what you allow in your marriage, it's like what you allow in the garden, it will grow. And what you remove, because there's times when we prune and there's times we cut back, but you can have this beautiful garden, and it starts off when you first get married. It's small, but then it grows and you bring kids and you bring all these different things, but you have to tend to it.
Right.
And then there's things that you find out about your spouse and you're like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. I remember just like a month ago, I was at my friend's 50th birthday party,
Mm.
and I was in the pool, and I was just watching Lisa. She didn't even know I was watching her, but she was just at this table and just watching her like hand out cake to everybody and smiling to these kids. And I'm like, my wife is so gracious. She's so awesome and so positive. And I think it's like looking across the room and like, oh my gosh, that's my wife,
That's awesome.
and going on that trail in your mind and just like looking at her, and so that's what I think that I would encourage couples to do, is just get to know them more and more each day, because there are things to learn.
And also being grateful for the things that are going right. It's very easy in marriage to be like myopic on this hurts me, you do this wrong, you do this wrong, okay. And not being grateful for like, yes, those are real dynamics and they need to be addressed. And it might take a minute. Like people will get crushed under the weight of too many things to work on at once. So if you can look at your spouse and go, if this, okay, here are these 5 things that are hurting me or whatever. Hopefully it's not super long list, but what common denominator, if one thing changed, would kind of affect a lot of those, right?
Mhm.
Maybe like understanding me or something like that would actually get whatever. And then communicate that one area that would really mean a lot. And then giving them time to work on it and improve on it. And then we were coaching a couple they were at the brink of divorce, and they're a very young couple, just precious. And Eric was like, hey, how about for the next 2 weeks, you just set aside what you don't like about each other and what isn't working. And when you wake up in the morning, I want you to say, look in each other's eyes and say some things that you love about them. Like you remember what it is that you love. Like you fell in love, you got married, you made this commitment to each other. And they said for them, that was really a game changer to think of the positive. They were so burdened by what was and there was dysfunction, 100%.
Yeah.
You don't ignore the dysfunction, but what we do is we cut our legs out from under us when we forget all the good things and you might be like, I can't think of one good thing about my husband, like, cause you're in such pain. But if you ask the Holy Spirit, he'll show you. The Holy Spirit will show you that one thing, even if it's just, he's still here, isn't he? Sometimes it's like, what can I be grateful for? I have food to eat today, right? Sometimes it has to be that basic, but if you could start cultivating gratitude for the things that are working with you, then you have a little more grace to start working on.
Yeah.
And don't give them a huge list, right? One thing's good. And
Yeah.
I hope that helps.
Do you have any other top tips to leave with the audience before you depart?
We talked about the vibe check, which really helps us. We talked about same page, coffee.
We did. And then, setting each other up to win, even with boundaries we never talked. He came up with a few.
Yeah, this is a really good one. This helped us. And that was in the morning before I have my coffee, I don't want to lay in bed and hear about the kids' school schedule. Okay, and I know it's been like, I know it's like, so our bedroom, I told Lisa, is never for confrontation or talking about things like finances,
nothing
stressful
stressful.
things. Our bedroom is for making love and sleeping and peace.
Yes.
And so I just made 2 conditions. I go, just let me wake up and have a cup of coffee, and then we can start
Then
you
we
know,
take our walk
we
or
could
whatever.
peel apart the day, right? Then the other thing is
But
after,
in the morning we have a captive audience.
yes,
We're like, you're here, it's quiet. Okay, did you pay the bills? Or whatever, because we have their attention.
yeah,
So that said, I honored that boundary. Also, he made one. He said, "Listen, neither of us are that great when we're tired.
yeah,
To be honest, like
Hungry
you're
and
supposed to
hungry.
argue from the neck up, right? Like, let's work this out. But usually we're arguing from here, right? Because we're tired." So he said, nothing stressful after 9 p.m. unless it's an emergency. He's like, oh, okay, fine. But otherwise, by 9 p.m., we just go, babe, let's deal with it tomorrow. I love you. You love me. I don't want to think about taxes. I don't want to think about this problem with the whoever, whatever. Like at 9 p.m., let's just love each other.
yeah. You're not going to fix it at that point because you both are pretty raw at that time, especially if you have kids. You know?
Now, if it is necessary, there are times where it is necessary. You've got to talk through something, and you can't be like 9 o'clock. It's
Go to the kitchen table.
That's what we do. He woid be like, okay, we really need to talk about no problem. We would move location to either the couch or the kitchen table, and it made our bedroom stay that safe place. And then as you're even hashing things out, sometimes then you go back to your bedroom and you make love because you're like, oh, I'm in my good space again. We worked stuff out to the best of our ability in our tired state.
Yeah.
We did it. So those healthy boundaries are really helpful to set you up to win. So that was something, but I have to say, when he came up with the 9 p.m., I'm like, oh, I get it. Yep. And then a couple years later, he's like, actually, I gotta have coffee. Like if you launch into all this stuff, because now our kids are older, it's just so much more to go through. And I was like, I kind of laughed when he told me his second boundary. I was like, okay, I can do that. I see the wisdom, but I'm like, babe, when am I going to talk to you? Like, I can't talk to you at night. I can't talk to you in the morning. So I said, I get it.
I was gonna be like, lunch is my
You're gonna
chance
have.
of peace.
I'm like,
You got 5 minutes between 3 and 3:05.
yeah, right. I was like, I get it, but you have to make time for it.
And so we made time.
So he did. So
And that's
why
for the
we do our
same
walk
walk and then the same page
coffee. And so he's like, okay, I get it. So he made intentional time. So I would say that's really helpful. And
You know what's a really good one that you do is you process with the Lord first, and then I'm not your savior and fixing all the problems.
yes, I've seen throughout the years, whether it's myself or other married women, sometimes we look to our husband and we're trying to pull from them what we need in ways that they're really not equipped to do. And so we really set ourselves up for disappointment. If I'm looking to Eric as amazing as a husband and wonderful man he's just a man. So if I'm trying to pull from Eric what only God can give me, I'm going to be disappointed and frustrated. And it's really not fair to Eric. So many times, as wives, we're like, oh my gosh, this is happening. What are you going to do? How are you going to fix it? Tell me it's going to be, how are you going to fix it? And like, sometimes he's like, I have no clue how to fix this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know. He's got to go to God and get some direction because it's a stressful situation or whatever. And if I'm just like, all like, it almost shuts him down a little bit because he feels inadequate to be the husband I need because he doesn't even know what to do sometimes. And so what I've found, if I will go to the Lord, your prayer closet is the game changer.
Yeah.
It is the place where you can be honest before the Lord. You can pour out your fears, your worries. It says to be anxious for nothing, but it doesn't just say like, don't be anxious, get over it. What does the scripture say? It says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything with prayer and supplication, and with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. So God is like, don't be anxious, just come to me.
Yeah.
And pour it out. And if you can emotionally kind of pour it out, tears are actually very healthy. You release toxins. What's the big thing right now? Something with an S Pilates where like women are like, when I did all the stretching, I'm holding all of this trauma in my hips and my muscles. Yes. And they say, but when I do these stretches, like I weep and like I'm letting it go. God actually knows all this about us. So when we actually get on our knees and pray before the Lord, sometimes we'll weep. Like we are literally pouring it out. It's our healthy expression. Mm-hmm. And then you can talk to God about even things with your husband. And you're like, Lord, this or that, or your children or whatever. But then God pulls you above it. And oftentimes when I'm kind of like processing with God, he'll be like, hold up. Do you realize Eric's under pressure in this way? Do you realize what Eric is feeling and going through here? And suddenly I'm above myself and the situation. And I'm like, oh, I can see more clearly now because I actually processed with God. But most of us either rail on our husbands or try to have him be God, or our girlfriends. And so we just have to be really careful. Who is the first person you process with? Because if it's always your friend, there is an expiration date on your drama. Our pastor's wife said that. She's like, guys, there's an expiration date on your drama where your husband just can't deal with it anymore. Like, he's just like, I'm good. And there's an expiration date even on your friends, right? But there's no expiration date with God. And he can help you process, see it from a new perspective, kind of get it out. And then you can stand to your feet and ask him for what you want. You start building yourself up on your most holy faith. And then I can leave that closet. And I just had a therapy session with the Lord.
Right.
And I feel way better. And I'm
therapist.
actually, now I'm able to go to Eric and be like, babe, I've been praying and interceding. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know God's going to show you. It's going to be okay. What are you thinking? Where are you at with this? You know, I still need him. I want assurance from him still. I want to know, like, you
But
are
you're
praying,
not in
right?
freak
Like,
out mode.
right? But I'm coming with such a different, where he feels like it's going to be okay. Like, sometimes they don't know how to handle us when we're totally freaking out, because they need to hear from God themselves. So I think that is the game changer, is to process with the Lord, and truly do have good friends that you can process with, because you're processing with the Lord and having a really good, I know we have a women's prayer group. I have friends at church, and having those people in your life who will pray and stand with you and not just tell you what you want to hear, right? Like, blah, 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 blah. Maybe they're like, hold up, your husband is kind to you. Wait, hold on. To have friends that will actually help you see even your blind spots and all that kind of stuff. And I know he goes to men's prayer, and it's good to have a support around you, so you're not just pulling everything from each other only.
Yeah, men are good for men and support groups too, because there are things that we need to talk through that I really don't think women need to shoulder. And so it's good for guys just to kind of talk and have those support groups as well. Like I go to men's prayer, and it's great. A couple hundred guys show up every Tuesday, and then we get in groups of four,
Wow,
4 or
that's
5.
huge. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then we just kind of like, step in the middle of the circle and be like, hey, this is my prayer request. This is what I'm believing for. And guys are believing for their families, for their jobs, maybe personal struggles. But it is, 5:30 every Tuesday.
That's amazing.
But it's nice for men to hear other men are going through the same things.
Yeah. And we start off with this thing called God Stories, which I love. And that's where guys just raise their hand and go, here's something that happened to me this week that was really great. And these are just guys from the church, and maybe a guy gets a promotion, or we had a guy today that talked about his wife who had cancer and had a battle with it for 2 years, and how she was restored, and God said they would have a baby, and how she's pregnant and everything's great and there's no sign of cancer. And for to be in a meeting, or a guy that was a Navy SEAL that was there, and he goes, I had a porn addiction. And it's like, wow, this guy's a Navy SEAL and he couldn't kick porn, and that how now he's been free from that for like a year, and how he had to tell his wife, and how they restored their marriage. And just, guys hearing stories like that, it really helps. And I'm sure the women, same thing. It's not, we have the women's prayer at our church, and it's the same exact thing. It's good.
I don't think men do that enough. You guys would
Yeah.
never do it in a living room setting, but the fact that you guys have set a stage for men to feel okay to share it and whatnot, you guys need it just as much as we do. Just don't do that. So that's amazing.
Well, yeah, when things are brought to the light, we're sons and daughters of the light as Christians. And when the light shines in us, it weakens the darkness. I was talking to Lisa about the armor of God. We talk about that, put on the armor of God so that you can withstand the enemy. And the one translation says the wiles of the enemy, or the tricks of the enemy. And so what that is that's Christ's character that we place on ourselves. We live like Christ. And so it gives us that light. Even us as a couple, shining the light in our marriage helps expose maybe something that someone's struggling with their marriage. And once it's exposed, there's no shame attached to it, and it loses its power. So that's the same for the guys. I'm like, look, guys, there's a bunch of guys that suffer with pornography, whatever. Just who cares? You got a problem with this? All right, let's fix it. Just say it. I have a problem. I had a problem with porn. Wow, is it that hard? No one cares. We look at you as a Christian that's in your journey. And so our church is all about exposing those things so you don't deal with shame. So you're not walking through life and just under shame, under shame, under shame. But it's been exposed. And it's like, all right, let's move on. You know, and that I love that. I love that about where we're at.
I think one of the biggest things is just as much as possible, just enjoy. Enjoy that you have someone. I mean, when you really think of the treasure in having someone who's committed their life to you,
Yeah.
to have your ride or die.
One person of the billions.
Yeah.
I mean, really, if you stop and think about that, incredible. One person you share your body with, your most intimate thoughts and secrets and whatnot, you know?
Yes. And it's like, make it fun. That's why we're like, make your text feeds fun sometimes, or laugh. Just make time to laugh. Life goes so fast.
Yeah, enjoy every stage. I know with kids sometimes it can be tough. We're in a stage now where our kids are adults, but you know what? Our kids want to hang out with us while they're adults, and it's awesome. So I think don't sweat the small stuff. Enjoy life. My biggest advice would be just like Lisa said, enjoy one another and understand that you are going to get on each other's nerves. You're human. You're human. And but that's fine. And it's just know that you guys are in it for the long haul, and just enjoy every moment. Be thankful every moment. And we get up in our daily walk, we also pray what we're thankful for. And some days it's just like, man, I'm thankful. Like yesterday we had our team, we were recording all these videos, and I just prayed this morning. I was like, I'm so thankful for that moment. You know, I'm thankful for Lisa. She did such a great job. It's being thankful for the small things. You know, that's a big deal.
Laugh together.
Laugh together.
Laugh, love, pray, lay. Do all those things. And
Couples that pray together and lay together stay together. That's what we say.
I love it. You guys got to make a sweatshirt with that on it.
Yeah, let's go.
We'll add it to the Aligned Mommas merch.
Yeah, we'll give you some, what do we call it? We'll get you some profit off of it, of your turn.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Kickback, that's what I was going to say. Okay,
Yeah.
If anyone wants to follow you guys on Instagram or whatnot, how do they connect with you?
Well, we have a couple different ways. Let's see here.
Your middle life.
Your middle life. Let me make sure that's the Insta.
That's how much we're into our.
Well, we're getting better. We have some stuff on there. Your middle life on Insta.
Yeah.
We've shared some of your,
life.
some of those on the community page.
We've had, we're not like homesteading now, so we've been a little bit trying to get everything organized and in peace over here. Like, he loves chickens, but we're gonna start adding more content this fall.
Oh, you guys
Thanks
are
for having us, guys.
Wait, I have one more question. What are you guys having for dinner tonight?
I have no idea.
Oh, wait. You know what? What is?
Wins again.
What is today?
Today's Tuesday.
Okay, so
That's why he needs
here's
to
what we
check
do
it.
on Tuesdays. This is why she has no idea, is because Tuesday is like a big work day for us. So I just bring in dinner on Tuesdays because, because you know why? We're working all day. I start at 4:50 in the morning, and then we just have our kids, and I just bring in dinner. So she has no idea. I
And
take
he
care of it.
He does Tuesday dinners, so I'm like,
So what is it?
Oh, that's nice.
I don't know. I'm gonna figure it out. Sometimes I ask the girls, "What about Chinese? What about, Thai food? What whatever."
She's like, I have no idea. He's like, don't worry, I got this. What is it? I have no idea either.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Typical man.
Asking you again, Lisa, like, hey, so what do you think about this and this? That's what my husband would do. He helps me cook all the time, but I set the food out. So it just works out well.
nice.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm many times his sous chef.
She's my sous chef. She's amazing. I cook a lot, and
He
because I
loves
enjoy
it.
it. I can work from home, so when I'm not out and about, and so during the week I'm not out, in the field or whatever. But yeah, I can make some stuff. But Lisa,
He makes a mess and I clean it up.
She cleans it up.
I hear
It's
you.
about teamwork.
That's right. Same team. Your treasure.
Yes.
We are having a social tonight at my mom's house in Winsville. Shout out to you,
Oh,
Christine.
nice.
So I don't know what Eric's cooking, but I don't have to prepare it. He'll handle on his own.
We'll have fun tonight.
What are you preparing for your husband like a good wife?
Well, I'm gonna tell you what my last night. I do have a plan, but it's bonding bowls, which we don't really have them that much. But I feel like I've said that so many times on this. But I'm about to go make them. But last night I made a new.
She has a culinary degree.
Dinner,
like
and it was
amazing.
so good. We had to leave for a game, and I needed
But all of
everyone
her
to leave.
food is so good, though. So.
But we had to leave quickly, and so I had marinated chicken in the fridge, and I popped it into the air fryer, and then I took cottage cheese and mixed in Greek seasoning, which is, or you could do like powdered ranch. I mixed that in, I put that in a bowl, and then I sliced up a bunch of bell peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, and avocado, and so then the chicken came out, and I just like sliced it up, put that on top with all the raw veggies, and mixed it up, and it was delicious, and everyone loved it, and it was like healthy and very quick to make. So
Nice.
Like quick.
Now, when you
Quick
if
is
you guys
good.
ever come out again, when you do, we'll have her make you a meal.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to see Uncle Steve. I'll have to come out
I
and
know, and
challenge him at something. I like
play a
challenging him
game
at
with them.
games.
Yeah. So we'll see you guys at the Aligned Mommas Marriage Conference in the fall of 2025. Yeah.
Let's go.
Like, I'm not kidding.
Let's go.
I actually feel like that's going to happen. I don't know.
That's
We'll have to get
exciting.
donations to fly you out, but somebody's got money out there.
Uncle Steve will fly me out. Just tell Uncle
You know what?
Steve.
He probably would. No, he would. Yeah.
Uncle Steve's number.
Yeah, which is my dad.
Oh.
Yes, I do. That's weird. She doesn't know the family calls him Steve. Grandma apparently wanted to name him Steve, but back in the day, they always mess up birth certificates. I don't know how many stories I've heard from older people, and maybe they did. Who knows? But it was supposed to be Stephen Paul, and it was Paul Stephen. So people now call him Paul, but family calls him Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was so
Paulie.
confused for a second. I was like,
Who's Steve? Who's the sugar daddy? I don't know about.
just kidding. We know that guy.
Yeah, he's a good sugar daddy. Though. Yeah, he's.
I have to tell on my daughters. My daughters think Uncle Steve is the coolest guy. They're like,
Steve. He hugged me.
They're like,
girl.
yeah, they're like, I love Uncle Steve. I want to hang out with him again. He's the coolest.
Thank you so much. That was amazing.
Yeah.
So good. So many good tips. And yeah, it's great.
Well, we're really proud of you guys helping moms, supporting,
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
aligning mamas. It's beautiful. So good job, guys.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Appreciate that. See you next time.
See you later, Mom.
Yes.
Can I do it again? I said see you later. See you next time.
We're going to leave
All right.
it.
Don't believe it. It's so awesome. See you later. Oh, it's fun. Yeah.
Baby, you look so handsome in your
Mm.
glasses.
My glasses,
hat.
my hat.
How long
Okay.
have you guys been married again?
27 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, we've been together for a while.
We're way too young for that. I'm so shocked.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
You guys were like 2 when you got married.
I know.